All right, UFC 314 in the books. We have a new and once again featherweight champion, Mr. Alexander Volkanovski, regaining the belt. AJ, I see you have the Diego Lopez shirt on. How are you feeling on this Tuesday afternoon?
You know, I'd still I was gonna rock the Diego Lopez shirt, even though I lost. Um, I like Volk, I really do. I'm happy he got the belt back, but it's like I'm more sad than happy because I really wanted Diego to win. I really like Diego Lopez, one of my good buddies. Um, it was just sad seeing him in there uh, at the end, and he thought he may have won, and his hand was shaking, holding the monster can, and it was sad, but you can't not be happy for Volk winning the belt back. So
Yeah, it's one of those fights where you just like both of them, and it's one of those fights where you don't want to see either person lose because they're both just so likable and resonate so well with the fans. And seeing how Diego Lopez has risen up in less than 2 years and seeing Volk try to come back, it was cinema to be honest. And I don't think it could have played out any better. I think Volk being champion is great business for the UFC. I think there's a lot of matchups that can be made if Volk can keep this thing going. So I'm thrilled to see and happy to see Volk back on top where he belongs. But before we break it down fight by fight, I'm gonna ask you this because this has been talked about a lot. What do you think the biggest storyline, if you had to pick one, it's the biggest storyline coming out of UFC 314?
hmm, it might be Paddy.
I think it's Paddy. I think it has to be Paddy.
Yeah, I think it's Paddy. I mean, showing that he's the real deal. He that can compete with these guys up at lightweight. I mean, we kind of went. We've seen him going from like this little joke, funny fighter that people are like, oh yeah, he's kind of we'll pick him to win. To now he's legit, and he could maybe even fight for a belt at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Paddy came into the UFC. He was a funny character. He had the haircut. He looked the part. It was fun. It was just pure fun watching him fight. We didn't think, I mean, there's lots of people that didn't think he would even climb the rankings. Nevertheless, being in this position where he's now in a position where I think we'll get into it in a little bit, but he's real close to a title shot in that lightweight division, especially as someone that hasn't fought Islam yet, because Islam's really adamant about fighting people that he hasn't fought before. He's kind of been dismissive of rematches in some of the interviews that he's done. He likes seeing a new face. He's talked about Gaethje before. Potentially that fight could happen. But let's go back to the main event. Let's circle back. Volkanovski by decision, as I predicted. Um, it was
Yeah,
there was
not
there was go
not my
ahead.
best, not my best predictions on this card. I'll just say that.
It's all right. It happens.
Not my yeah.
We have our makes and we have our misses, but there was, I will admit, Diego did make it a dogfight. There were moments in this fight, especially that knockdown in the second round where I was getting a little nervous. I was getting a little bit of flashbacks of that Taporia fight last year, but Volk just seemed dialed in from the jump. I mean, until that second round knockdown from Lopez, it seemed like this was going to be one-way traffic. I mean, Volk was doing well in the distance. He was using the jab well. He was landing some hard right hands, and it seemed like he was just a step ahead of Lopez at times until Lopez was able to do what he does, which is make a fight dirty, muck it up. And I think it took till that second round knockout for him to realize that that's how he needed to approach the fight. Because he did see, I don't want to say timid, but he was playing the distance a little too much, a little bit more than he normally would instead of trying to cause that car crash that he always does. But I think Volk handled it well. I think one thing that we had a lot of questions about when it came to Volk coming in this fight was how would the chin hold up, and it's clear that taking that year layoff was the best thing that could have happened for him because the chin held up. I mean, Volk got hit with some clean shots. He got knocked down, and then even after the knockdown, he got hit with some clean, hard shots from Lopez. He got hit with a mean uppercut while simultaneously landing that left hook, which is also like one of the coolest videos I've ever seen. I don't know if you've seen that like slow motion video of them hitting each other at the same time, but that was electric. And it just seemed like Volk was a little bit more active. He landed a ton of strikes in this fight. And I had it personally 4-1. Um, I believe it was the fourth round that I had for Lopez. And then the second round was the one that was debatable as far as if you wanted to give it a 3-2 scorecard. I wouldn't have too much of a problem with it, but I think the work that Volk did in totality of that second round still eclipsed the knockdown in the second round. But all in all, good to see Volk back. He looked like vintage Volkanovski. He looked sharp, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. What do you think of the fight, though?
I think it was an absolute war. We could have got a better, we got a very good early contender for fight of the year. Both these guys showed up. I think we showed a lot of heart for Diego Lopez. I mean, he ate a lot of shots. He's got a granite chin. He will be champ one day. If he performs like that, he went toe to toe 5 rounds with Volk. The greatest featherweight to ever do it. And he looked good, and he did not look bad at all in that fight. It just showed that there are levels to it. That Volk is that guy. We've known he's that guy. He's the featherweight. This makes the Volk Islam wins look way better. After we can see if Volk's still able to be champion, this makes those wins for Islam look way better. People were making fun of him for only fighting the featherweight twice, but I mean, people were acting like he was fighting Sean Woodson. He's fighting the featherweight. But back to this fight. Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, Volk was out there. He was flicking the jab. He was, he just looked good. I mean, like, he just looked like anytime he wanted to pop Diego Lopez in the face, he did it. And credit to Diego Lopez, he was able to eat those shots, but unfortunately, that doesn't look good on the judge's scorecard. So,
yeah, you did hit one thing that I think needs to be mentioned. I don't think Diego Lopez's stock goes down from this. I mean, he put on an absolute war of a performance. He showed how much of a dog he is, like you said, and it still just feels like for me that he's 1-2 at most away from getting another crack at the title. So, what that fight will be, I'm interested to see what kind of options we have for Lopez. I have one in particular that I think outsees all.
There's no way the next fight can't be Yair Rodriguez.
It has to be Yair Rodriguez.
Yair Rodriguez at 320 in Guadalajara on the Noche card. I mean, it's perfect. It's right there. I don't see if they don't make this matchup, it'll be one of the biggest fumbles of all time. The fans are so interested in it right now with the beef that they had at the 314 press conference and after. The only thing that stops it is Yair, who all of a sudden thinks he deserves a title shot.
We'll get to Yair. We'll get to Yair whenever we break down that fight. He also had a great performance, but yeah, Guadalajara, Noche UFC, that has to be the matchup. It can't main event. Obviously, it's not a title fight. It'll be a number one contender fight, but co-main event on that card.
I think featured fight. I think we can get it a feature fight, maybe co-main.
I don't know. Diego Lopez is too big to be a feature fight. That's a perfect co-main event for that fight card, and that has to be next. For Volk, we know what's most likely going to be next, and as people, he did say it himself. He said it before he even won this title back. He wants to stay active. He wants to test himself against the best, and the number one contender right now would seem to be Movsar Evloev, who, outside of Islam, who is a little bit less reliant on his wrestling. Islam's obviously shown the striking with Volk as we know. But so with that, I think this is going to be a test for Volk that he's never really seen before. I mean, someone like Evloev, who is super reliant on his wrestling and grappling game and likes to hold you down, land short shots, and win off of control time. Um, he will attack submissions for sure, but as we've seen in most Evloev fights, it does usually turn out that he suffocates people when he's on top. So although Volk has faced an elite wrestler like Islam, I still think this is going to be a test for him that he's never seen before, and I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the only thing with that is, Meguru said, and I agree that I mean, to beat Volk, I think you have to be able to finish him. And Eloev just is not that. He doesn't have that finishing power. 0 finishes in the UFC. And that's why I thought, Diego Lopez was going to be able to beat him, because Diego Lopez has that finishing power. He's able to finish people, and even he wasn't able to get it done. I'm not too worried about Volk with wrestling, because like I said, he did fight Islam. He did not look bad at all in that first fight with the
His
wrestling.
defensive grappling, even in the second fight before the knockout happened, I mean, he stuffed Islam's one takedown shot immediately. So even on 10 days' notice, he was prepared for Islam's wrestling.
He didn't look
And
bad against Brian Ortega's wrestling, although he
no,
did.
not at all. I mean,
I mean,
it was real dicey with the Ortega fight for sure. But I mean, that just goes to show how defensively sound and how hard it will be for someone to submit him. Because if Brian Ortega isn't submitting him with that triangle choke or with that mounted guillotine, then I mean, good luck to whoever wants to play that game with Volkanovski because he will be prepared for it. That is one thing that we will not question.
yeah. Yeah, so all in all, great fight. Am happy that Volk is champ again. I mean, how do you not like Volk? Diego Lopez, keep your chin up, buddy.
Did you before we go down to the co-main, did you see where Volk landed on the pound for pound rankings now that he regained the belt?
Yeah, what was he was
Eight.
he was 9?
He was
8.
eight. He was eight,
Yeah.
I believe. He was there was a few fighters I was slightly surprised that he was under just because Volk was at the top of the pound for pound for so long. And yes, he did lose 2 fights, but I'm interested to see how you think about this. I'm pulling up the pound for pound right now. So we still got Volk moved up to 9. You were correct. It's not 8. I was wrong. Just above Pantoja, above Aspinall, and then still below Magomed and Drakus and Bilal. Do you have any issues with any of that?
Yeah. Pantoja should not be that low. Still, even in 2025,
I
Pantoja
agree.
needs to be higher on the pound for pound list.
Completely agree.
I mean, look at what he does in that division, man. I mean, he just destroys everybody. So this Pantoja disrespect is crazy. But other than that, I mean, when Tom wins the belt, he'll be way up high. Pound for pound, he's insane to beat. But other than that, it's not bad.
Fair. I just wanted to see your reaction to that Volk at number 9, just under Alex Pereira as well. So, but we move on to the co-main event. As we said before, I think this is the biggest storyline coming out of UFC 314. Paddy Pimblett decimating Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler had one single good moment in the entirety of the fight. He landed one clean right hand, I believe, in the first round. But as Paddy says, Scousers don't get knocked out, and there was absolutely no threat of that even happening in this fight. Paddy came out seemingly unscathed. And one thing that I took notice of more than anything is, we talk about Michael Chandler as far as the 155-pound division as a big lightweight. He cuts a lot of weight. Even Chandler has said himself that if he was 2 or 3 inches taller, he would fight at 170. He looked like a featherweight compared to Paddy Pimblett in that octagon. I mean, it really put into perspective how big of a lightweight Paddy Pimblett is. And that's even now, Paddy's past now the point where he was getting fat in between fight camps. Like, and you could see it too. You could see he was in crazy shape. But he is a huge lightweight, and I don't think a lot of people realize how big of a lightweight he was until that fight with Chandler.
Yeah. That's all I noticed that Paddy looked way bigger in there. I think that helped with that flying knee that he was able to land on Chandler. That cut him open pretty bad.
Yeah, the timing on that was perfect. Chandler seemingly was going in for potentially a bad shot attempt, and Paddy timed it perfectly. The hands looked massively improved, even if he's still keeping that chin up to a degree. His hands looked mightily improved. He was working the jab well. And then on the ground, I mean, Chandler was able to get a takedown in the first round. Um, he was able to get his hands locked a little bit, but Paddy, I mean, Paddy just outmanned him, out wrestled him, I mean, just looked like the stronger guy in there. And it was evident as soon as that knee landed and they got up to the ground that Chandler was not gonna make it out of that round. He was covering up for dear life. Um, but yeah, as far as Paddy goes, this is the best performance of his career. He's never looked more complete, as I said, with the hands and with the wrestling, attacking submissions, grant the ground and pound. Everything was flawless. And now we look at Paddy as a real player in the division, which a lot of people, as we said before, didn't think we'd get to this point. So I think there's a lot of good options out there for Paddy. I would like to hear what you think should happen next.
So you look at Paddy, and I mean, he finished Michael Chandler. Who does that? Nobody does that. Nobody finishes Michael Chandler unless you're Oliveira, Poirier, and Gaethje. No, not Gaethje, just Oliveira and Poirier. But that said, actually, I mean, I think his call out was perfect. You know, he says he needs to win one more fight before he make a shot at the belt. I think him versus Armin is the fight I want to see. There's beef there. He said it. You know, he was pretty respectful to all the guys he called out except for Armin. I like the beef there. I think that would be a fun fight. Armin
I
needs
believe I believe he called Armin a little sausage.
and a helmet,
Yeah,
whatever that means. Um,
I'm here for it.
yeah, I think that's a fight I would like to see. Like I said, Armin needs one. Armin needs another fight. Paddy's high right now. That's a win that could push Armin really high up. You know, makes me like, hey, I just beat one of the rising stars in this division. Give me my title. I deserve the title before Ilya, before Charles. So I think that's the fight. That's the fight I want to see.
So I think all of this is dependent on what happens with Ilia Topuria. If Ilia Topuria gets the title shot, as I think most people would like to see, because as we've talked about before, I think that's the second biggest fight that the UFC can make right now, Topuria versus Islam. Um, so hopefully that's the way it goes, and if that's the way it goes, I want to see Paddy versus Charles Oliveira, and I think timing wise, it would make a little bit more sense because I think as far as a number one contender fight goes and Armin needing an opponent, I think Gaethje makes a little bit more sense coming off of his win over Fiziev. So Gaethje and Armin, I think, would be one that makes a lot of sense right now. And then after that, you have Topuria and Islam, and then Charles is right there for Paddy. So I think stylistically that would be the most fun out of any of the options, even though they all would be banger fights. I mean, you're talking about a list of Armin Sarukian, Justin Gaethje, and Charles Oliveira. There's no way any of that cannot be fun with Paddy Pimblett. So Charles would be my pick, assuming that Ilya gets the title shot. If Ilya ends up fighting Charles, as we've heard murmurs of over the last few months, then I would like to see Paddy with a Justin Gaethje or potentially a Dustin Poirier, even though I don't think Poirier is happening for his retirement fight. So Oliveira would be my first option, and then Gaethje would be my second. Um, And either way, I mean, those four right now are sort of in a bracket in my head. So whether you do Oliveira versus Armin, you can do that rematch, or if you do Gaethje Armin or Gaethje Paddy, whatever matchups you can think of. I just think, and this is all from me assuming and hoping that Ilya gets the title shot because I think that's what we all want to see. As much as fun as Ilya and Oliveira would be, we want Ilya getting that title shot against Islam. We want Islam to be tested again. So that's what I want. I want Charles Oliveira. That's what I think makes the most sense. So yeah, as far as Michael Chandler goes, we don't really know if there's a real direction for Chandler at the moment. He immediately wasted no time getting out of the cage after the fight was over. Didn't do any interview or anything. Um, so I don't think retirement is what's gonna happen, but you gotta think that it's if he's fighting at 155, it's gonna be someone lower in the division, someone like a Bahamundez or a Grant Dawson. Like it's I feel like those are the names that we're thinking of now as far as Chandler goes. Because I mean, you went from the top of the top. You fought Oliveira, you fought Gaethje, you fought Poirier, um, and now losses to all of them, and then taking this spot against Paddy, ranked at 12th at the time. Now you're kind of at that point where you might have to fight someone who's not as big of a name, like one of the names that I just said. So I don't really know what makes that much more sense outside of that at 55. Um, so yeah, what do you think?
So for Chandler, he's at this point in his career, like he's got 2 wins in the UFC. His last win was aging Tony Ferguson.
2-5 in the UFC.
Yeah, 2-5 in the UFC now. Albeit he has fought the best of the best in his career, but so obviously it's pretty mad at me. He can't hang with these guys. But I think he's big enough name where you don't just send him to the Apex to fight lower rank to be a gatekeeper. I think you can still he can just get money fights. Like I said, if Conor ever comes back, which probably won't happen. But the fight that I like, I saw some people make. The beef is there. I mean, both these guys need to win. Chandler versus Pitbull. The beef is there. Pitbull hates Michael Chandler. They are tour. Both guys, one will win. If you want Pitbull to do good, he'll get a win here. If you want to see Michael Chandler get a win, he'll get a win. So it's not like a bad scenario for the UFC. I think that's a good fight. I think it'd be a fun fight to see how they do now after the Bellator fight. That's what I think.
Fair enough. We move on. Let's go down to the third fight down on the card. Yair Rodriguez, first win in, I believe, a few years now, against the debuting Patricio Pitbull. And I want to talk more about Pitbull to start off with this. Yair did look great. Yair was, I mean, he looked like classic Yair. The kicks were dynamic. The kicks were causing lots of problems for Pitbull. But for Pitbull, it just seemed like he never got going. I mean, in the first round, he was flat-footed. He looked a little just flat, looked a little stale out there. And he just wasn't really throwing too much. Honestly, I was getting vibes watching that fight of Yoel Romero against Israel Adesanya. Like that's the vibe I was getting in that first round, especially for that fight against Yair. And it just seemed like, we talk about Pitbull and his Bellator career. He was ultra aggressive with the grappling and the striking. We know he has knockout power in his hands. So it was just a little weird seeing him get off to that slow start and then never really recovering from it. Um, so I'm interested to see where he goes from here. But as far as Yair, we talked about Yair. He needs to fight Diego Lopez. I think that would be stylistically one would be that hard to it would be hard to pick, I think, because Yair is just someone that is so hard to prepare for. It's hard to get guys in a training camp that can emulate him. So For Pitbull, I'll start with him as far as what I think should be next. I would roll with potentially Dan Ige. They called each other out in some Instagram comments, but before you say what you think next, what did you think of the fight overall?
Pretty much what you said. It seems like Pitbull didn't wake up till the third round. That's when he actually started doing stuff. I don't know why he did that. He had that late arm bar that was like half a second there almost when he could have got it. And I guess Yair just dominated him. And I wish we really got Pitbull way sooner in his career than we did. I don't think he's in a position where he'll fight for a belt at all ever in the UFC. Maybe we'll see. You already know what I think. I mean, I think he should fight Michael Chandler. I think that's a fun fight to make. I mean, do we want to get started on Yair? This clown.
Yeah, so Yair went on the Ariel Helwani show yesterday and said that he deserves to fight for the title after being a guy like Pitbull. That's just not going to happen. Let's just be real. I mean, unless he's maybe a backup and something happens with Evloev or Volk and they make an interim or something like that. Yair's not fighting for a title. I don't really see his argument. That's where I'm at with it. I assume you feel the same.
Yeah, I've got a lot because I mean, Yair is I don't know who he thinks he is. One, that was your first win in 2 years, and it was unranked Patricio Pitbull with no wins in the UFC. 36 years old, I think.
37.
37. What makes you think that you deserve to fight for a title right now because of that win? He said the reason that he should get it is, which this is a bad look for the UFC too now, is because the UFC says you only need one win now. You need to earn your title shot, go on a win streak. And then he also said his history with Volk and their fight that they had, the fight that he got finished in, mind you. If anything, that's the reason you shouldn't get a title shot right now. You were finished by Volk. And then he said
1,000%.
about the Diego Lopez fight. And he says that Diego Lopez doesn't deserve to fight him. My guy, he's ranked above you. He just fought for the title. The reason he gave, he said that at the press conference they had beef because Diego Lopez said that Volk or that Yair Rodriguez was coming off a loss and Diego Lopez had a win. And then Yair says, well, now I can say I'm coming off a win and you're coming off a loss. Just fought two completely different guys. I don't know who he thinks he is to where Diego Lopez doesn't deserve to share the octagon with Yair Rodriguez, who is this, great, fabulous, all-time Hall of Fame MMA UFC fighter. You're not, buddy. Fight Diego Lopez. He told, they had that beef with that one dude in the gym that Diego Lopez gym, I guess, cornered and jumped or whatever. And Yair said that he told him he would handle it when the time comes. The time is now. Handle it.
Time is now. You're not wrong. This is the most appropriate time for this to happen. I will say, though, Yair in the octagon said that he was promised a title shot if he got a dominating win over Pitbull. I don't understand why that would be the case. I don't know why the UFC brass would promise him a title shot. That being said, I don't care if you were promised a title shot. Fight Diego Lopez, Guadalajara. We want to see the beef. And we need to have fighters, and we'll talk about this more with Gene Silva, but we can't just get one win after not winning for years. And Yair Rodriguez is one of my favorite fighters. He's so fun to watch. I have nothing bad to say about him personally. But let's go on a win streak. Let's win 2 in a row. Let's beat like Pitbull's a good win and
Beat Diego
Pitbull
Lopez
beat Diego Lopez. Beat Diego Lopez and you get a title shot.
easily. He just fought for the title. If you beat him, you're right. You're right now. I haven't seen the featherweight rankings, but I imagine it's Volk champ. Ilya's gone. I don't know if I imagine it's Volk, and then number 1 Mofsar, number
Max
2.
might still be in the rankings, but that doesn't count.
I think he'll probably be like 4. It'll probably be because they know he's not coming back. So I imagine it's Volk champ. Number 1 should be Mofsar Evloev because he beat Lopez. He's undefeated in the UFC. Number 2 should be Diego. Number 3 should be Yair.
I actually have it for you right here. Max Holloway is still number 1 ranked, but that doesn't count, like I said. Diego Lopez is at 2. They, for some reason, have Taporia as the 3rd ranked lightweight, or not lightweight, featherweight. That doesn't count either. We have 2 lightweights in the top 3.
This new AI ranking system is horrible.
No, it hasn't come into play yet.
It hasn't? No.
The meta, you're talking about the meta?
Yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't come into play yet. It's still the media.
So,
but, okay, so excluding people that are currently at lightweight on this ranking list, it's Diego Lopez, and then it's Yair Rodriguez under that, and then Mofsar is still ranked under Yair and Diego Lopez.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Mofsar beat Lopez.
Yeah.
Albeit it was Lopez's first fight in the UFC.
Short notice, years ago.
Lopez did look good, but he still beat him.
Yep, he did. And as we've said before,
arguably has better wins than Diego Lopez did when he fought for the title. You could have argued that Mofsar was the real number 1 contender before Diego Lopez. I'll talk about more of his wins when we talk about Gene Silva. But Yair, dude, you're not getting a title shot because you beat unranked 37-year-old Patricio Pitbull first fight in the UFC. It's just not how it works, dude. It's your first win in 2 years. Like I said, like President said, go on a win streak. I don't know what fighters, I don't blame Alex Pereira for this, but because he was saving cards and whatnot. But when we had like Khalil Roundtree coming off 1 win, Yuri coming off 1 win after getting knocked out.
That was just because of timing.
Because of timing, so it's different. But now these fighters
can get 1 win. And to be fair, we're just talking about what we think should happen. But if there comes a time where maybe Mofsar isn't able to fight, if he gets injured or something, then we can talk about Yair Rodriguez. But unless if Mofsar is fully healthy and ready to go, then he's getting the title shot as he should.
One of my complaints on Mofsar right now is he said he wants to fight Volk in June. My guy, he just went to a 5-round war with Diego Lopez. Let him take a break before he comes in and fights you, dude.
To be fair, for Mofsar's case, Volk is the one that said that he wants to be back in like 8 weeks. Is that realistic? Probably not. But Volk is the one that's putting that idea out. So for Mofsar, if I was him, I would be obliging to that. I would say, yeah, let me get him as quick as he wants. If he wants to come back quick, let him.
Let him film a couple more Cooking with Volk episodes, and then we'll talk.
Of course.
But man,
Yair, it's a good win for Yair. Yair looked really good. Pitbull, as I said before, I think Dan Ige is the move here. Either Dan Ige, maybe Giga Chikadze.
See how he does at Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I mean, it was an all right fight. Wasn't too bad. If I can switch over.
But yeah, let's move on. We've got Gene Silva. What's that?
Trying. Okay, we got it now. Gene Silva, Bryce Smith.
Yeah, some people were saying that this was the people's main event. I think that would go to the co-main event of this card. Yeah, put on the glasses. Gotta throw them on. Shout out to the Fighting Nerds. I mean, do they just have like plot armor at this point? I mean, I'm getting to a point with these Fighting Nerds where I'm scared to pick against them. Like, I think Ian Gary. Let me just talk about this real quick. Like, I think a lot of people are picking Ian Gary against Prates. I'm scared to look at that fight in a technical way because I feel like these Fighting Nerds just have the plot armor. I mean, we go into this fight Bryce Mitchell, we would all think would have the superior grappling advantage and would be able to maybe exploit Silva in that range. But Silva more than handled himself on the ground, even before the submission. Was able to get up from takedowns,
He threw
and
up a guillotine at one point that was pretty tight.
he threw up multiple guillotines.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Silva. I mean, what more can you say? He's landing shots on the feet. He's pointing at the crowd. He's talking to people. He's talking to Bryce during everything. I did think it was funny how Bryce didn't want to touch gloves at all, and Gene just
Yeah.
started talking to him in that second round, and he was like, "All right, you're probably gonna regret that." Um, but yeah, I mean Silva. I mean these fighting nerds are just. I I think they're just destined to win at this point. I don't think it matters from a technical standpoint how the fight looks. These guys just find a way, and for Jean Silva, this is a star building performance. Now he's part of that big four of the fighting nerds. He's coming up in a what arguably the most stacked division in the UFC, um, at least top two or top three, and he could not have looked better. He could not have been better on the mic. I mean, even before he got on the mic, barking in Bryce Mitchell's face. That's now two.
After submitting him, yeah.
Yeah, that's now two photos of Bryce Mitchell on the ground unconscious with people screaming in his face now. So unfortunate for Bryce there, but I mean, it just seemed like Bryce was having trouble figuring out what to do, especially on the feet. He was always a step behind. Gene was all putting the front forward, his front foot forward. He was always going first, and he was able to land some clean shots, had a knockdown, and just flew in for that ninja choke after getting up. I mean, none of us saw that coming. We thought he was going to keep on throwing at once he was up against the fence, but shout out to Gene Silva. Shout out to the nerds. This could not have been a better night for them.
Yeah. I knew it was pretty much, which I mean, I knew it was over from the start, but the moment I knew that Bryce Mitchell was going to be unconscious in this fight was after Gene Silva knocked him down and instead of grounding pound, told him to stand
Let
back
him
up.
up. Let him up.
I knew at that point that Bryce Mitchell was going to be unconscious at some point in this fight. I did not know it was going to come by submission. Um, so that's pretty crazy that he was able to submit this this great grappler that he's never he never fought a grappler like Bryce Mitchell, and he defended the takedown well and then submitted him. As for what's next for Gene Silva, you're not getting a title shot.
Also, someone that went on Ariel Helwani's show and talked about how he wants to fight for the title. Um, I mean, I don't even like the Yair one is weird too, and we talked about Yair, but I think this one with Gene Silva is just more funny than anything because of how unrealistic it is. I mean, you just got your first ranked win in the UFC, um, over Bryce Mitchell, who's very good and like very notable opponent, and you could argue that Gene Silva beat Bryce Mitchell worse than Taporia did, which is not for nothing. So, but no, Gene Silva's not getting a title shot. With Yair and Diego Lopez hopefully being booked up, those two would be out of the equation. I would love to see Gene Silva fight potentially a Lerone Murphy or potentially an Arnold Allen. Um, Potentially Brian Ortega. We'll see what happens with Ortega. Um, but yeah, anywhere in these UFC rankings from, I mean, Gene Silva's number 11 now. Anywhere on the rankings from 10 to 6, I'm game for. You got Josh Emmett at 10, Aljamain Sterling at 9, Lerone Murphy at 8, Brian Ortega at 7, and Arnold Allen at 6. Give me any of those names for Gene Silva, and I'm down for it. No matter which one of those names, it's gonna be a fun fight. Even the Lerone Murphy fight.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I want to see the most actually, because we've seen Lerone Murphy and he gets criticized a lot. He is undefeated. He looks supremely talented. He does get criticized a lot for his fight style, and it can seem a little bit slow or a little bit boring to people at times. And I'm sorry, but if you're fighting John Silva, you're going to be forced into a fun fight, into a
Yeah.
high-paced, high-action fight. So I think LeBron Murphy versus Gene Silva would be my number one choice. What say you?
I don't know if Little Murphy would do that fight. I mean, he probably thinks he's due for a title shot as well. It seems, which actually, no, he doesn't. I saw him tweet that he said I'm fighting Volk next, and a lot of people got mad at that, but it was a joke. He was kidding. Because it seems like the entire featherweight division thinks they
Calling
deserve
for
more.
shots.
I mean, we saw Pico say he wants to fight Movsar Evloev in his first fight in the UFC. So I don't know what's going on for the weight division, but I
To be
actually have.
fair for Pico, that was a real thing at one point. I forget which interview it was, but he did say that that was legitimately in the works for a little bit. So it's not like he was just calling that out for no reason.
Yeah.
But interested to see where he goes. But keep on going about
Um, I
Silva.
have what Gene Silva said here, what he tweeted out. He said, "If it's not a title shot, then it better be a fight that puts me right there." In my mind, he's at least 2 wins away from a title shot. I think, unless he does get the Lerone Murphy fight, then maybe you can make a case for that. But even then, we got to see what happens with Diego and Yair. He said that Volks want to stays active and face to face in the division. He said, "I've already proven that I deserve it and that I'm the best." You beat a 13 ranked Bryce Mitchell. I love the Fighting Nerds. I love Gene Silva. I'm a big fan of his. He beat 13 ranked Bryce Mitchell. That's not it, bro. And he said,
Gotta put a win streak in the rankings together, as we said before.
Diego Lopez got a title shot with 5 wins and 1 loss. 2 of those wins by decision. I have 5 wins, all by finish. The level of guys that Diego Lopez fought and you fought are completely different. He goes on to say he faced the biggest knockout artist at lightweight. Okay, Drew Dober is not the biggest knockout artist at lightweight. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, he can knock people out. Yeah, Drew Dober's good. He is not the biggest knockout artist at lightweight, and it's looking like that win is aging. It's not aging too well with what Drew Dober's been looking like. Not to discredit anything that anyone's done, but we've seen Drew Dober here recently. Took one of the best grapplers in the division and submitted him. Again, 13 ranked Bryce Mitchell. Beat a guy who had never been knocked out. I don't know who he's talking about there. Maybe Drew Dober again.
No, Drew Dober's been knocked out.
I don't know. I don't know who he's talking about there because then he says, "I also faced a multi-time world kickboxing champion and knocked him out," and that's that one. So I don't know who he's talking about that they never knocked out. But like I said, when you look at Gene Silva's fight record and his resume,
I believe he's talking about Charles Jourdain with the never been knocked out.
and you look at his record and who he's fought, as of recently in the UFC, Weston Wilson, Charles Jourdain, Drew Dober, Melsk, I can't say his last name, and now Bryce Mitchell. I will tell you right now, Arnold Allen, Aljamain Sterling, Diego Lopez are all, those 3 wins alone are better than any win that Gene Silva has right now. Movsar Evloev is the guy that is a title shot right now. It's not Yair. It's not Gene Silva.
It's not anyone else.
Not anyone else. Unless Ilya decides to, y'all know I want to fight for the featherweight title and come back down. But even then, you left, bro. So yeah, Gene Silva, I like the Lerone Murphy fight. Another thing that made me mad about Lerone Murphy, he tweeted out during the fight, Volk is Volk backing up? It's not the same. It is not the same as what you do, dude. They put on a war in there, but here nor there. LaRon Murphy or Josh Emmett, I think, is the fight to make for Gene
Josh
Silva.
Emmett would be a firefight. I mean, the
Yeah,
punching power that Josh Emmett can bring with Silva, I think that would be a banger. But I think it's not as big of a deal as if he would have beat LaRon Murphy. So,
yeah, because I think Josh Emmett's best days are behind him. So, but as for Bryce Mitchell, I really have no idea.
but yeah, let's move on. We've got the
The
comeback of all comebacks.
Reyes title shot, the title Dominic Reyes title run is happening. It's real.
2.0, Dominic Reyes 2.0.
It's real. So hype. I mean, this. I don't know about you. I've seen some people point out too. I thought it when I saw it. The knockout looked very McGregor. Aldo.
Shades,
Yeah,
shades of Conor and Aldo. It gave me shades of Conor and Aldo. Reyes slightly backing up, waiting for Krylov to come in and use the aggression, use Krylov's own aggression against him, um, and then just charges him with that straight left hand that Reyes has been so prominent with for his whole career, um, leading up to his first title fight. Um, but yeah, I mean, Reyes is now in a situation where it feels like he's one away from a title shot. Um, there's a lot of guys can that are in the running to fight Reyes right now. But as far as the fight goes, I mean, Reyes looked like the better guy from point A to point B. Krylov, it's been a while since Krylov has been in the octagon. Hadn't fought, I believe, since 2023.
yeah,
Um, so I think, as I said in the prediction video, I just think Reyes, with how active he's been and his confidence coming back, um, I think it was the perfect spot for him to get a big, big win, and he certainly did that. I did think it was kind of crazy that he didn't get a bonus, a performance bonus, but that just speaks to how stacked
this card.
and how well this card delivered. So
Yeah, like I said, can't be more happy. One of my best moments of this whole card was seeing Dominic Reyes continue this title run he's on. Um, I would like to see Dominic Reyes versus Alexander Rakic. It seems like now all you have to do in the light heavyweight division is beat Rakic, and boom, you get a title shot. So if we want Reyes to get up there, beat Rakic, which I think he could do. Rakic is on a little bit of a losing streak now. As for Krylov, again, don't know. We thought he literally died, and then now he's back, and he got knocked out in the first round. One thing I thought was interesting, I noticed with Krylov is that he used to rep Ukraine, and now in this fight, he was repping Russia. I don't know.
yeah, I
I thought that was
did notice that. I didn't really think too much of it, but I definitely did notice that. But as far as for Reyes goes, as far as what's next, I mean, you've got Khalil and Jamal rebooked, and then you've got Rakic in the Wims, you've got Jan Blachowicz in the Wims.
could get
I think
The Jan loss. Could get that back.
could get the Blachowicz loss back. I think I'd favor Reyes in that rematch. Um, Honestly, the one that I'm thinking though is potentially Carlos Ulberg, someone that he hasn't fought before, someone that's also fresh in the division, making up his way up for his potential first title run. I think that would make a lot of sense for Reyes at this moment. And honestly, Reyes' performances compared to Ulberg's have been a little bit more stellar, a little bit more, have a little bit more highlight to them. So I think my number one option would be Carlos Ulberg. Have them fight, potentially 5 rounds, and winner gets a title shot. I think, you still have Yuri in the whim, so who knows what's going to happen with Yuri as well. But Ulberg would be my number one option, and then potentially, as you said, Rakic or Blachowicz.
Yeah. Krylov, welcome to the GFL, buddy. No. Can't go to the GFL. It's done.
Yeah,
Died.
it doesn't exist.
Preliminary card. Dan Ige gets it done, man.
Weird, a
Here
little
early.
weird though.
Um, as someone whose parlay was affected by this, and I was screwed out of $180, I will say early stoppage. Albeit Sean Woodson was down 2-0 on the judges' scorecard.
which that I think is even more weird than the
I
stoppage.
thought it
I
was one
think
one.
I thought it was at least 1-1, and I think it could have been more argued that I think if anyone was going to be up 2-0, it would have been Woodson, to be honest, the way
Yeah.
I saw the fight. But the stoppage was bad. Woodson was clearly getting up.
He literally,
Um,
as soon as it was stopped, immediately stood up.
he was on his feet whenever the ref stopped. Like he was literally in the process of getting up, and the ref pulls him off. And I disagree with the stoppage a lot. And then seeing this judges' scorecards after, seeing that Ige was up 2-0 on all of them, that just felt it's just wrong. Like that just wasn't the case. I didn't see it that way. I think a lot of people didn't see it that way. But we love Danny Ige around here, so
Yeah.
shout out to Danny Ige, get a win, even if it is in weird fashion. Um, and yeah, both of these guys just hanging around the lower rankings of the featherweight division. Sean Woodson's still unranked, but I could see him getting another fight that would put him in the top 15 next potentially. I mean, could do him and if I can pull it up, could do him and Cater, could do him and I mean Yusuf Zalal. I mean, another one that could be fun for both of these guys. Bryce Mitchell. I mean,
Yeah.
either one of these, Bryce Mitchell against either one of these guys would make a decent amount of sense and would be fun. So that's what I want, at least for that. So what do you think?
Um. Yeah. I mean, Bryce Mitchell. I think that'd be fun to do. Like I said, I mean, I really don't know. I feel bad for Sean Woodson, who was on a 6-fight win streak, and now it's gone because of that. But yeah, happy to see Danny Gay win. Never get mad. Um, we had and that this fight was not bad actually. I will say
No.
that. Kind of crazy. I had people I was watching with thought it was kind of crazy. This was on a prelim fight, not even the featured prelim fight, as it was the number 1 ranked versus the number 3 ranked. But Verna Jandaroba looked insanely good in there, dominated Yao Xiaonan. Yeah, I mean, she's pretty much right there for a title shot. Jandaroba is. Like I said, she pretty much dominated. Was able to do whatever she wanted. It looked like there were at points where I thought she was even going to submit her and finish the fight pretty early.
Yeah, she was attacking submissions. She was real close on a few of them. She was just smothering Jianan. Jianan wasn't really able to get started, and it was super clear. It was really clear early on that it was one of those fights where we saw Jandaroba get a takedown, and we could kind of tell how the rest of the fight was going to go from there. Just the discrepancy in the wrestling and the grappling was evident from the jump. So as far as Jandaroba goes, she's not the number one contender in strawweight. She is the number one ranked. So I think it has to be a title shot. You just beat someone that fought for the title back at UFC 300. The rest of the rankings, Tatiana Suarez is coming off a loss. Yang Jianan is still number 3. Amanda Lemos is nowhere near fighting Zhang Weili again. So if you're matchmaking for strawweight, there really is no other option for Jandaroba outside of a title shot.
Yeah, I agree. And let's see what they do. Maybe she fights for an interim. Maybe
If Zhang Weili moves out to flyweight to potentially fight Tina.
Yeah. But yeah, man, Vernon Jandaroba. This fight, shout out Chase Hooper, Chase New Bronx, certified gooner.
Yeah, apparently Hooper, apparently a clear 3-0 decision victory for Chase Hooper wasn't enough, and it wasn't the performance he thought he was going to put out because, as he said in the octagon,
Too much time.
he was doing a little bit too much gooning this camp.
Forearms were tired.
Yeah, so I mean, Chase Hooper got a good win, but it's not goon. Let's not goon anymore. We gotta get some finishes.
Take something out of the Sean O'Malley's book, which he
Yeah.
said he's not a fan of semen retention, is what he said. But can't not love Chase Hooper, man. I love Chase Hooper. He's a funny guy, really in tune with the culture. I follow him on Instagram. Um, I'm glad to see his run continue. I will say one of the crazier submission attempts I've ever seen in that fight.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a chance for another twister in the UFC.
Yeah. I thought that was wild. But yeah, Chase Hooper. Other fights to talk about. I mean, Julian Erosa. He fought Dan Elkins.
That was
Elkins.
that was sad to watch.
Yeah.
I think Darren Elkins looked like he was wobbled before the fight even started.
Yeah.
Like just the way he was moving, the first clean shot that he got hit with, the up kick particularly, just never recovered from that. So, but all in all, 314 was stacked. It was an awesome card, and
I was going to point out we did get an early contender, I think, for fight of the year. In Marcel Trujillo versus Tresean Gore, I think.
yeah, absolute war. Tresean Gore showed how tough he is. He was getting hit with a lot of clean shots from Tulio, and Gore was able to take him for just a little bit of time and showed his grit. He kept the forward pressure even after being wobbled. So I gained a little bit more respect for Tresean Gore in that fight, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I think 314. I think this is the card of the year so far.
Yeah, I mean, it just was great, top to bottom. I mean, even the first fight on the card, the first women's bantamweight fight was a finish. So I mean, that tells you really everything you need to know about this card. Not even both women fights weren't, absolute. They weren't normal women fights. I'll just say that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this card. Not my best, not my best performance picking these fights. I think I literally got 2 right on the main card.
Fair enough.
But
we've got no UFC coming up this next weekend, and then after this,
we'll try to get a video out, something.
Yeah, we'll get a video out later this week, most likely, and then next weekend we got UFC Kansas City, Machado versus Prates. So we'll talk about Ian Gary. We'll talk about the rest of the card. Talk about KC, and we'll see y'all then.
We'll be there.